right, so let's dive into something pretty interesting today.
Hmm.
Okay. What if what if you found out that a machine could be signing official documents?
Hmm.
Like even presidential pardons.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we're talking about something called the Autopen. It's
Okay.
a device that can like copy a person's signature, and the idea that this thing is being used is pretty mind-boggling. We're going to explore like what exactly is an Autopen is, and how it works, and all the legal and ethical questions that come up when it's used, especially by presidents.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a fascinating, like, kind of intersection of technology and tradition. You have this old symbol of authority, a handwritten signature
Yeah.
being like reproduced by a machine. It just raises questions about authenticity and intent and what a signature actually means in like today's world.
Yeah, totally. So let's start by just explaining like what this Autopen is. Can you break it down for us, like what it is and how it works?
Yeah. So an autopin is basically like a robotic arm that's designed to copy someone's signature. It's way more complex than just like a stamp. It actually uses a pen and ink, and it like follows the exact strokes and pressure of an original signature that's been programmed into it. So it's like imagine like a fancy record player, but instead of music, it's playing back a signature.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Mm.
That sounds like something out of like a spy movie or something.
Right.
So this technology has been around for a while, right? When did it start being used and who uses it besides presidents, I mean?
Yeah. So autopens have actually been around for like over a century.
Really?
Yeah. Early versions were mostly used for like personal letters and stuff, but as the technology got better, it's being used for a lot more things. Today, you'll find autopens used by like CEOs signing big contracts to celebrities signing autographs for fans. It's basically become like a standard tool for anyone who has to sign a ton of documents.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially for someone like a president.
Yeah.
They probably sign a lot of documents every day. But it does make you think about what it means for something like a presidential pardon.
Mm.
You know, I mean, should a machine really be involved in something that important?
Yeah. That's where like the debate gets really interesting. Like traditionally, a signature has always represented personal involvement, like a conscious decision from the person signing. But when you bring in an auto pen, it kind of gets blurry. Like if a machine is the one making the signature, does it really carry the same like authority and intention?
That's a great question. And this isn't just like a theoretical debate, right? We've seen some pretty strong reactions to presidents using autopens, especially from former President Trump, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the use of auto pens by presidents has, caused a lot of controversy, especially recently. Former President Trump has been really outspoken against President Biden's use of an auto pen. He's even gone as far as saying that any pardon signed this way isn't even valid. His main argument is that signing with an auto pen means the president didn't actually know about or approve the pardon.
So it's not even just about the signature itself, but like the idea that the president wasn't personally involved, which, could have legal consequences.
Exactly. The real issue is whether using an auto pin goes against the president's constitutional authority. Like, if the president isn't physically signing the document, does it really hold up legally? There are a lot of different opinions on this. Some legal experts say that what matters is what the president intended, regardless of how the signature was made.
Huh. That's an interesting point. It seems like we're moving into some uncharted territory legally and ethically, especially when you consider the types of documents being signed with an auto pen. Like pardons, as we said, are already a controversial topic. But what about other official acts? Could an auto pen be used for things like treaties or executive orders?
Yeah, that's a question a lot of people are asking. And it's something the courts might have to decide eventually. If a president can use an auto pin for pardons, where do we draw the line? Does it mean they can use it on any official document? I mean, there could be huge consequences. And the fact that there's no clear legal precedent makes this whole situation even more complicated.
Yeah. It sounds like we really need some clear rules about this. But before we get into the legal side of things, I'm kind of curious about like the history of this. Haven't other presidents used auto pens before? How have people reacted to this in the past?
Yeah. It's not like presidents using autopens is brand new. Actually, President Obama used one openly for certain documents when he was traveling in other countries. People saw it as like a practical way to deal with the hassle of getting a physical signature on a document when the president is far away. But even back then, it raised some eyebrows. Some people felt that even if it was for logistics, certain documents, especially important ones, should still be signed personally by the president.
So the idea of presidents using auto pens has been evolving and people have had different opinions on it. But this controversy with President Biden's pardons seems to have really brought the whole issue to the forefront, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, for sure. President Trump's very public criticism and the legal questions about whether Autopen signed pardons are even valid have made people pay attention to this like never before. It's forcing a conversation about technology and tradition and what presidential authority really means in a digital age.
And that's a conversation we're going to keep having right here, right now. We'll dig deeper into the legal stuff, the arguments for and against using autopens, and what this technology might mean for the future of presidential signatures.
It's a topic that has a lot of implications, and I think it'll keep people talking for years to come.
All right, well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to talk more about this. We're back and ready to get into like the details of this autopen thing. It's crazy how something as basic as a signature can cause such a big debate about technology and tradition and what it means to be president in this day and age. So where do we even start with like the legal side of this?
Well, a big question is, is an Autopen signature actually legally valid?
Okay.
Especially on something official, like a presidential pardon. And there's no easy answer. Like, the legal precedent is kind of iffy.
Iffy how? Like, has this never been challenged in court before or something?
Well, there have been some cases in the past about Autopen signatures on contracts and other legal documents, but nothing that really deals with presidential orders. Some legal experts say that what really matters is the intent behind the signature. Like, if the president said it was okay to use the Autopen and they meant for the document to be signed, then the signature should count.
That makes sense. But you could also say there's a difference between a president letting someone else sign routine stuff and something as big as a pardon right. Shouldn't there be like a higher standard for important decisions like that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, people who are against using autopens say that certain things a president does need that personal touch, like a real signature that shows they're directly involved and they understand what could happen. They say that using a machine for these really crucial decisions takes away from how serious and important the act is.
It makes you think about, like, where do you draw the line? If it's all about being efficient, what's to stop them from using an autopen on other big stuff like treaties or even declarations of war?
Right. That's what a lot of people who are against it worry about. They call it the slippery slope argument. They're afraid that if we start thinking it's normal to use autopen dies, it could weaken the traditional checks and balances on presidential power. It's a legitimate concern, and I think people who make policy and legal scholars need to really think about it.
This whole debate about whether it's the intention that matters or the actual act of signing is really interesting. It makes you think about what a signature even means in this digital age. Is it just a way to confirm something, or is there more to it, like a personal connection that shows a deeper level of involvement?
It's a question philosophers have been thinking about for a long time. And as technology keeps changing, the answer gets even more complicated. Like, in the past, a signature was seen as a physical expression of someone's will, a mark that was unique to them, that couldn't be copied easily. But now, with things like autopens and digital signatures, that uniqueness is being questioned.
It makes you wonder if we're heading towards a time when we won't even sign things anymore. Like, will we just use digital signatures and stuff that can be verified through technology?
It could happen, and in a lot of ways, we're already doing that. Think about online banking, buying stuff online, and all the other stuff we do digitally every day. We almost never use actual signatures anymore. We use passwords, biometrics, and other ways to prove who we are.
Yeah, that's true. But for some reason, the idea of a president's signature being all digital just feels different. Maybe it's because we've always thought of that signature as being really important and traditional.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. There's a certain weight that comes with the image of a president at that big desk, pen in hand, signing a historic document. It's a strong symbol of leadership and making decisions.
And it's not just what it looks like. There's something about physically signing something that suggests you thought about it carefully and made a choice. It's like the weight of the pen makes the decision feel more important.
I agree. It's a physical thing, a feeling of responsibility that comes with writing your name on something. It's something that digital signatures, at least not yet, haven't really been able to copy.
And that brings us back to this whole autopen issue. If we are moving toward a time when presidents mostly sign things digitally, how do we make sure that we still have the same level of accountability and transparency?
That's a huge question. We'll need to come up with strong safeguards and rules to stop people from abusing it and to make sure that digital signatures have the same legal power and symbolic meaning as regular signatures.
It seems like this is about a lot more than just autopens. We're really talking about a basic change in how we think about authority and what makes something official in a digital world.
Exactly. This Autopen thing is just one example of the challenges we have as technology changes our traditional ideas about power and who's in charge. We need to talk about how to adjust our laws and social norms to this new reality.
So if we're moving to a world with digital signatures, what does that mean for the auto pin? Will it just disappear or will it still have a purpose?
That's interesting. While digital signatures are becoming more common, there might still be times when a physical signature is needed or preferred, especially for formal or ceremonial things.
Like when they sign a bill into law?
Yeah, exactly. Or signing treaties with other countries where there might be certain diplomatic rules. In those cases, the autopen could be like a bridge between the old way and the new digital way.
That's a cool thought. So even as technology changes, the autopen might still stick around even if its role changes over time.
It shows how powerful symbols and traditions are even in a world that's changing so fast.
This has been a really thought-provoking conversation. It's amazing how something as simple as a signature can make us think so deeply about technology power and the future of our society.
I agree. It reminds us that even the most everyday things in our lives can be completely changed by technology, and that we need to rethink our assumptions and adjust to new realities.
Before we finish up, I want to talk to our listeners for a minute. This whole discussion about autopens and signatures and how authority is changing raises some important questions for everyone. So in a world where everything's going digital, what does a signature even mean to you? Is it still like a promise or showing that something's real, or is it becoming just like a routine thing, a box you check online?
That's a good question, and I think everyone will probably answer it differently depending on their own experiences. But it's important to think about how technology is changing the way we see these basic ideas.
It's like we're at this point where we have the tradition of actually writing your name on something, which has all this history and meaning, and it's clashing with how easy and fast it is to just verify things online. How do we make these two things work together?
I don't think it's about picking one or the other. It's more about finding a middle ground, understanding that both tradition and new ideas have value. There will always be a need for that personal connection, for the importance that a real signature can have. But we also have to be open to what technology can do as long as we don't lose accountability and transparency along the way.
Yeah. It's a tricky balance, that's for sure. But it's an important conversation to have, especially as we're all dealing with this increasingly complex digital world.
Absolutely. And this goes way beyond just signatures from presidents. We need to be asking these questions about everything we do online. How do we know we can trust things and that they're real when we're interacting online? How do we keep our information private but still enjoy the good things about technology? These are the challenges that are going to shape our society for years to come.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But I think this deep dive into the world of autopens has given us a good way to start thinking about these bigger issues.
Yeah, I agree. It's a small example of the bigger challenges and opportunities we face in a world where technology is always pushing the limits of what's possible.
So to our listener out there, we'll leave you with this thought. As you're going through this digital world, think about what your own signature means. What does it represent to you? And how do you think its meaning might change in the future?
It's something worth thinking about because as technology keeps changing our world, the answers might surprise you.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored this interesting topic of technology tradition and what signatures will look like in the future. We hope it made you think as much as it made us think.